Welcome to the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast with host Jacqueline Burke. Today's special guest is Jana Hanna.
Welcome, Jana. Thank you for joining us on our podcast today. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, good. So we're going to start off today. I have a couple questions for you. Um, I wanted to know what inspired you as a child. What
Okay.
really resonated with Jana and inspired you?
As a child,
Yeah.
I think um I know that so I'll just give you a little bit of background is that my mom raised 18 children.
Oh my.
And so that's a whole story in itself. We could write a book. Um but I think coming from a loving family, we were a mixed up crazy family, but coming from that love, we had confidence,
Oh,
right?
nice.
Because then you can always return back to that love. And so it was always a safe place to go back to, right? And then she was just an amazing teacher, my mom. And I'm grateful for my dad, the great influences in my life, my grandparents as well on my dad's side were amazing, and the family. And I still have those connections and
Oh,
that
nice.
love. And I think that that's huge, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and I often wonder if that is what we're missing in
Oh, yeah.
today's right society is that we can return home to that love or reach out to that love in any way that we can, and if that's missing, right,
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge big part. So I think that, yeah, as a kid, what inspired, we were allowed to be, and were taught you were allowed to be anything that you wanted. You had to love your family, love your neighbors, be kind, and you were accountable for your actions.
Mm-hmm.
um like having that solid foundation that my parents built for each of us to learn and grow. My mom was not of any denomination, but she said, you choose your
Mm-hmm.
religion and then you follow through with that religion, whatever that is. Like you don't waver, you don't get to be this, you don't get to
Mm-hmm.
be a Catholic one week and then,
Yeah.
and so we all are like the Catholic, there are Lutheran. I am of the Latter-day Saints,
Mm-hmm.
with the Church of Jesus Latter-day Saints faith, so LDS.
Yeah.
My sister was as well, but yeah, we have very many denominations, but she made sure choose a faith, and we were all Christians within our home, right? And
Yeah.
we learned of each other's faith and we were respectful.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
so I think that that gave us the foundation to become whatever you could come, and we were allowed to go and try different things, and fail, you still come back, you're loved, and then you pull up your pants and you um, go out and try again. Both my parents were very hardworking as well, and I had that example growing up, right?
Yeah.
That you can try and try, and if that's not your thing. I remember reading a thing I just recently when I moved. I had a book from grade 2. It said I wanted to be an ambulance driver
Oh,
and a pig farmer. Well,
oh, nice.
okay, well, ambulance driver, no, I'm not really, because I get that
Yeah.
queasy, with blood. So and a pig farmer because my dad was, right, and
Oh,
that was
nice.
the
Yeah.
age of influencing then. And I probably still could pursue that, but I
Yeah.
think also um my mom could see the talents, my dad could see our talents. Like I know each one of us are individually given these talents, And so you build upon those, right? And
Yeah.
then my parents could see those and said, okay, we're going to put you in this, or we're going to, we'll help you with this, and built upon those talents. And I'm grateful. And then I think us as individuals have to keep individually working on our talents to keep the strength, or to build them, or to pursue, like to go down different alleys or avenues with those talents and strengths, right?
Oh, I
And
agree.
yeah,
So that
so
gave you the freedom to go with your heart with what you wanted to do in your life.
absolutely, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's so important. You got to turn the mind off and go with what's in your heart, you know. A lot of people
absolutely.
don't understand that, but it is important. Um,
Yeah.
so as a kid, and when you're growing up, um, what inspired you to do what you're doing now in your career?
Okay. Well, I I think having that example, right?
Yeah.
Of it doesn't matter what you're doing,
Mhm.
for work or career, or as long as you love it, as long as you
Yeah.
enjoy going every single day to that. And I think in return, when you go loving in your heart like that, loving what you're doing, the people that you work with or encounter can see that, right? That it's a
Yeah.
light. It's a shining light that people can see and recognize. And then I think in turn, your coworkers, your bosses, again, the people that you come encounter with, then see that, and then in turn have their light and their respect for you. And I think that that's a give and take, right? And I think
Yeah.
that also comes with communication, with breaking down those borders and working together. You always have to have that mentality of, okay, well, yes, you're to this position, but are you still growing? Are you still learning? Are you changing? And I think in society, that is our one of our hardest tasks, is that
Yeah.
change and that growth. And
Oh,
without
yeah.
change and growth, we can't go forward, right? And
Yeah.
so that's what you have to also think in your career, in your activities. Okay, am I changing? Am I growing? And it's not always going to come fast, easy, like you just, if it's one step forward, three back, okay,
Yeah.
right? And I think that in my career right now, I know that I went to my heart and said, okay, what did I used to do that I loved going to work every
Yeah.
single day?
Yeah.
And it was honestly from the time I was 16 to 21. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a park assistant. Well,
Yeah.
is it the most glorious job? No, but is it the funnest job? Do I love going to work every single day? Absolutely. I
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Do I love the people that I work with? Yes, because we're a family and we work together and it just flows, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, what inspired me, I think, knowing and watching the example of the foundation of my parents too.
Hmm.
Like, they were hardworking and it didn't matter, both of them. Yes, we have to work so that we can eat, so that we can pay our bills, so that we can adult, right?
Yeah.
And adulting isn't always the funnest,
No.
but you can have those days of enjoyment of what you're doing, because you're surroundings, because you're going there, because you're making it, right,
Yeah.
the light that you want it to be. So yeah.
So do you think
I
being raised on the farm inspired you to still be like in an outdoor scenario, like with your career?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why I loved it as much, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think so, because right then you experience that, you have all the sensations of that, like growing up, and it was a happy time. So I think that you associate to that, right?
Yeah.
People being a park assistant, people are happy because they get to come outside. They're outside, they're doing
Yeah,
what they love. There is rarely, like I would say, like maybe a 2% that you'll
right.
come across people that are not happy. But the majority, like that, 98% of people are happy to be there. So then, right, you can feed off of that. And it
Yes.
is outside. You're able to be mobile. Like, yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah, they're
and
not.
careers where it's inside. And
Yeah,
same thing. I enjoy it. I loved going to work, but it was missing that. It
that
was
element.
yeah, absolutely it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you're at camp, or in the park, you're not cooped up,
Yeah.
in a house, or, you're not dealing with traffic. You're not, stuck wondering what to do. You can actually go to camp and relax and
Yeah.
turn the mind off.
Yeah. Right. You do
Yeah.
to a point, and then yeah. I've also worked in where a job where it was mandatory for the people to come in to, so it was a government position where it was mandatory that people needed what our company was selling or providing, right, of service. And I did that for like almost 20 years, and
Oh,
it
wow.
was great. I enjoyed it, but because of that mandatory, right? And because of the respect for our government, then people just were unfriendly and basically had no light coming
Coming
in.
in.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it's exhausting. So
right.
that's what made me do that search of, well, what did I really love doing? And
Yeah.
then that came back to me and said, well, why not? And so, and honestly, in our right now, I applied for over 70 positions,
Oh,
and
wow.
I had like 5 interviews.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so
times have changed, eh?
right. And I think we will see that continue to change, especially with AI. We're going to lose a lot of these positions. A friend of mine just told me, oh, it was so cool. We went to this restaurant and they had like a robot
Oh,
waiter. And I'm
I
like,
was just gonna
"Babe,
say that.
this is not cool. Like, really? Like, these
Yeah,
are entry level jobs that we still need these people. Like, what are these people going to do then?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's amazing, eh? The different, like when you look back to when we were kids and you compare now, it's like, oh my, where did this come from?
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
much change. How do you
Hmm.
handle change, Jenna?
Um, Before I used to, like, I was always like, ooh, but now that I see that it is a huge part of our life and our life journey here,
Yeah,
you have to be accepting to it,
yeah,
right? And not always do we like it, and not always is it fun, but
yeah,
you know that you have to. And so again, sometimes you have to take those baby steps forward. Sometimes it'll be and some, right? I
yeah.
think reading and educating ourselves
Mm-hmm.
is a huge part of that change. That then we can be accepting to that and work with it, right?
Yeah,
Know your boundaries, know the boundaries of that change, and then just continue. And I think it is. I think that that's also a thing, is a constant, right?
mm-hmm. Yep,
Is, and I think we had that conversation of uh, you have to do something continually for 65 days before that change takes place, before it's a consistent. Like,
yeah.
it takes 65 days, right?
Wow.
And I think as long as we're willing and we have that open mindedness, and then also I've read recently that we hold on to that last 2% to see if that change is going to work or not work.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're willing to give up that last 2%, that
Yeah.
change is then now a change,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Like
willing
change
and
has been
open.
difficult. Yeah. I've seen a lot of people struggle with change
Yeah.
because it's change that they don't have any control over. So it's
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're forced to change,
Yeah.
right? So I think
And
that
I think
that's
that's
gonna,
our hardest change too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? Um, like if you're to mentor a young lady and or a young girl, um, and they're struggling with the constant change of the world today, what advice would you give them? Like so that they're not so overwhelmed.
That they have to find their foundation, their
Yeah,
go-to, that go, like I always call it my go-to love, right? You
yeah,
have to have that solid foundation of that, whether that be a counselor, whether
mm-hmm,
that be a mom. But we'll find lots of young people nowadays don't have a mom or a dad to go to. Well, then is it an
right,
aunt? Is it a coworker? Is it book? Is it journaling? Is it,
yeah,
so you have to find your own foundation that you can go to
mm-hmm,
that works for you, right?
yeah,
And even on those tough days, if that's what it is, okay, having a really tough day and you have to stay in bed, then that's okay. It's okay
yeah,
to say it's okay, right?
yeah,
And I think us as an older generation, we have to be allowing that to this
right,
younger generation. Do you realize all that's put on them? Like, so with working at the park, I am grateful because I get to work with the youth, right? And
yeah,
just some of their things that they have gone through in their like 18 to 21 years. And I'm just like, whoa.
yeah,
So we have to step back and go, wow, right?
yeah,
They're here at this point. Like the crazy things of, okay, you're identifying as a cat. Okay, like this one
yeah,
girl said in, they wanted to have cat litters in the bathroom. And I'm like, okay, like why should they have to deal with
that,
this? But
yeah,
brought out, and so, and they are, and so I think we as a society go, okay, we have to allow them that time to
yeah,
know what their foundation is and their steps progressing forward, right? So I think
yeah,
kindness and love play a huge factor
yeah.
in it all as well,
And
right?
understanding and respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Respect is a huge thing. And I know that when I set my mind to that, that like when I went through my divorce, I said, okay, we might not always love this man, but I have to teach my children to
Yeah,
respect.
right.
And I said that to the kids. You might not love your dad today, but you will always respect him. And I'm so grateful. And it was a journey all in itself. And I know that through counseling, through journaling, through learning and reading, right? Of
Mm,
all that I could do to become this new person. Because again, that's something that was circumstances that were out of my control, that change, but you have to just fight for what, right? And I think
yeah,
that respect is a huge thing. And I'm so grateful today because both my kids have an amazing relationship. And I even do as well,
that's
right?
great.
With my ex. So that, right? You have to want that.
Yeah. You have to want to
Otherwise,
be
that
friends.
bitterness just will eat you up, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you know,
So,
you just have to you know, step back sometimes and think, well, you know what, this didn't work as a marriage, but we're still co-parenting.
yeah.
And
And
it's
it doesn't
important.
matter the age of the kids,
Yeah,
right? Mine were both adults,
yeah,
and
oh yeah,
they struggled just as hard, and you could see their struggles,
yeah,
right? And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's never the children's fault, and the parents need to remind themselves of that because the children carry a bit of weight about it,
Yeah.
and it's about, still embracing them through that change,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, change is a constant.
Is a hard thing, but if you look at it as a gift, so the way
Yes.
that when I say that change is a gift, I look at the seasons that our Heavenly Father gave us, right?
Yeah.
So we get winter, we get spring, we get fall, we get
Yeah.
summer, like, and so you look at the change, okay, this is a gift given to me. Now, what can I do in it, for
Yeah.
it, for myself, for others around me,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And it's a constant growth. It's that
Yeah.
like, otherwise, if you're going to be shut off or closed-minded to it, then there will be none. There will be no
Right.
growth, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
and
I want
lots of it's easier said than done. There were many days that I was
to,
like,
yeah.
I
Oh,
think
yeah, I
throughout
hear
your
you.
whole entire life, right? You're like, okay, I'm given these choices, and now the consequences of my choices are this, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, is there any challenges that you find in your career? Like what have you had to adjust to with with all of the changes that have happened in the world?
Hmm.
Because I
The
hear a lot of that. Like it's always adjusting, like even in careers, to the changes that happen within the world, even though it's not the actual business. That's you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's
and absolutely. And you would think, okay, as a park assistant, really is it?
yeah,
But it has, because of the changes of the world. We are like, I find that as a society, we're not as outgoing, we're not as friend, like, like,
yeah,
we knew what Joe Smith down the block was doing. We used to know, when I worked at the park when you were 16,
yeah,
you knew a bit about those people, right?
right,
And so it was more personable. So,
right,
yeah, I find that because of the changing world, we aren't as personable. So
right,
then I feel like, then that change, because of that, then we're not as caring or as understanding, and we're short to come to, like, well, you should have your
yeah,
pass. Well, maybe 20 things have happened to this guy today. Maybe his
yeah,
wife was admitted to the hospital. Maybe, his son, this happened, lost his job. So you don't
yeah,
know all these things. So that's the way that those changes you have to do personally, and sometimes on the fly, like sometimes at the,
yeah,
like, just staying positive, being kind. And then
yeah,
most people, when you have that as your base, lots of people open up, thank you so much, then this and
yeah,
this happened today. I got in a car accident, so my this isn't my normal vehicle, so my pass isn't in. So there are constant changes that we have to do, even, like I say, as a park assistant, right?
yeah,
Understanding where they're coming from.
and not
And
assuming.
yeah,
Yeah,
right?
like
Yeah.
stop
So it's
the
adjusting and
assumption.
learning.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Ask, be
Yeah,
involved, like, if they're, if they've been willing and, understanding, and I think once you give of your time like that, then people
yeah,
are more open, right? So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's wonderful advice. That's great. So tell me about your hobby.
Okay, well, my talents
Yes, oh my goodness.
have been, yeah, many. And I think I also got those and learned them, like I say, in a progress of the whole growing up.
Yeah.
My mom was a quilter, so she
Oh,
had a lot of talents that way. My dad was a junk collector, and we loved
oh,
finding treasures together. So we hiked and found lots of treasures that way. We would go to lots of thrift stores or junkyards or even to the
I
dump.
love it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my talents, then I was put into a lot of 4-H and Girl Guide,
Mm-hmm.
craft classes, that kind of thing. And so I think I built that upon like my mom and my dad's talents and then kind of created them. And I really enjoyed them. So my talents are exactly that. People will give me their junk and then I take and
Yeah.
recreate it to what I think that people would enjoy. Um,
Yeah.
my hardest task of that when people didn't enjoy it, then I was like, oh, heartbroken. But I'm like,
Yep.
okay, well, not everyone has the same likes. We can't all like the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that is kind of my little home-based business, is that taking junk and turning it into treasures. A big asset that I took a class, and it was a free class through our church, was how do you then in turn take that and make it successful? And it goes right back around to, we have to have that love, right?
Yeah.
It's the same as my mom used to say, like when you're cooking something, you might not be the greatest cook, but if you love the people that you're making it for and you're putting all your love into it,
Yeah.
they're going to think that it tastes great. So, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's what I've taken to my little business. If you really love it and you want to pursue it, and it's teaching yourself, it's self-educating yourself, taking those free courses, learning what is selling this year, right?
Yeah.
What's popular, what's not popular. And sometimes it's a hit and miss thing. I had the opportunity to work with one of my coworkers, young coworkers. He had some old junky fence posts that weren't being used, so we went out, cut them up, made them to
Oh,
what
wow.
um, worked for us, and we created centerpieces. The
So
first two
cool.
markets, we sold two.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, what is blocking us? Like, what is real? And he was thinking about the money stuff. And I said, okay. And I wanted to teach this young guy how to set up for markets, how to do markets, how to, from scratch. And he was just there to sell, sell, sell. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, you've got to connect with your people. And so through that process, by the end of our last market, we had maybe two Rubbermaid totes to pack away. He
Oh,
was
wow.
selling, 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 and he was connecting with the people and asking them what. And he had a great question at the end. What is it that's caught your attention here on the table?
Yeah.
With that question, they have to answer, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a question of, oh, what would you like to buy today? No, like, oh
No.
no, we're
Yeah.
just looking, right? No, this was what caught your attention. So then you could start that conversation. Like it was amazing to see from like a 1% to like
Yeah.
9% turn. And yeah, and we were very successful at our markets this year. It's
That's
because
great.
we're finding what was selling, what's not selling, and then going in with that love attitude, right? Love
Yeah.
the people that are coming in, that you're meeting, that you're seeing. And yeah, so
You know what I find
yeah.
with looking at your pieces is I'm a firm believer, like if you're thrifting or if you're picking up uh pieces, that it comes with a story. Like they all came from somewhere. But with what
Mhm.
you do to them, it's almost like you're honoring that piece, that story is found in that piece.
Yeah,
Like it
absolutely.
flourishes. Like you're beautifying, you're accentuating the story of that art or that piece of like wood even. Like you're changing it
Yeah,
into, yeah, it's your work is truly beautiful, Jenna, and
thank
it,
you.
it you know, you can tell that you do put a lot of heart into your products, and yeah, it's
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah. So what's your schedule like for this year for markets?
It will be again probably just winter markets, maybe play with a few summer markets, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's
just
good.
depending on what type of schedule I get again for
Yeah.
the park and stuff. So, but yeah,
So how many markets do you usually go then in the winter time, like for Christmas, and do you do any Halloween markets or
I
any of
usually
that?
don't,
Okay.
possibly look into that, but usually I don't. It's usually 2 months straight. So I'm
Oh,
usually
wow.
anywhere from 8 to 10 markets.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So what areas can our listeners
Anywhere
go?
from that Sundry Eagle Hill area all the way to like pretty much Crossfield, the Cross Iron Mills Market. I do that one.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
Central
So
Alberta,
mhm.
Central
And then
Alberta.
I do have a Facebook page. I should expand that. I really haven't, like, my technology is, I'm
Yeah.
not a tech savvy person.
Ah,
So I haven't really pursued that part of it, but yeah, that's where I'm going next. So
oh,
I've
good.
got some great ideas in my head for next year for Christmas to um, open it up to um, going in to seniors and saying, I will come and decorate and I will undecorate,
Oh,
and
wow.
just to give them a part of, because I found that a lot of our markets this year, the people were like, well, I'm not really going to buy any home decor stuff or Christmas stuff. I already got
Yeah.
enough and I don't put it out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
not at all, because it has been study after study that having Christmas decorations or the lights or brings so much joy to
Oh,
you. And so
yeah.
then I was like, wow, how can I bring, so I have asked a lot of the people, then that's what I started asking, if this was to you, and they said absolutely, if it was reasonable and someone would come and do that for us, i
Yeah.
would I would do it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to add that to my, and why not gift wrapped, right?
Yeah.
You
Right
could even
on.
expand it to the point of you would go shopping for their gifts, right? Bring it
Yeah.
home to them, have them even there while you're gift wrapping it. Sharing that love for that gift to give it,
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah.
Like a
So,
personal shopper.
mhm,
Oh,
yeah,
that's fantastic. I know my
so,
aunt who lived in the US and Arizona, she always used to inquire for personal shoppers because it was a lot easier. You know, they dedicated their time
mhm,
for you, so they put a lot of effort into what they were picking, and
yeah,
and it wasn't like a sales pitch. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And
So it
I
was
think
more
if you can
comfortable
keep
for her.
that reasonable
Yeah.
for that target of people, then I think that that's great. So that's something that I'm definitely looking into as well. But
Oh, that's great.
yeah,
Well, I'll definitely share the word, spread the
yeah,
word. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
So yeah, so I'm going to ask you one last question before we sign out.
Okay.
Um, so now what advice would you give your younger self with what you know now?
Mm, that it will work out, and that just keep trying, keep pushing, put all that time and effort into it, because it truly will work out. um, I now understand that Heavenly Father has a plan for us,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in his timing.
Yeah.
So I've always been a person that, like, right, organize. I want this, do this, do this. And sometimes it just can't fit into that box, and to give yourself the time, love, and patience for that timing.
Yeah, patience. That's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jenna. It was lovely having you on our podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad we got it all worked out.
Yeah. Well, you know, technology.
Right? I knew as soon as it was me.
Okay. Well, thank you again,
Awesome.
Jenna.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you for joining us at the Three Moons, Three Souls podcast.